All right, ladies and gentlemen, showtime. Welcome to this week's episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup, a look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I'm executive editor of the ChannelPro Network. With me, as always, is my co-host on this program, Eric Simpson, who is CIO and Senior Vice President of SPC International, a business improvement and training organization for MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how goes it today?
It goes great, Rich, and it's a couple of days before Father's Day, so I'd like to take this opportunity to, express Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
Indeed. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, and even though there's not a chance in hell that he's watching, Happy Father's Day to my dad.
Very well.
Let's dive into the news here, and a big story for the SMB channel this week. Just broke yesterday, as a matter of fact, and that is the acquisition of CARVIR cybersecurity by Continuum. Now, CARVIR really hasn't been in business all that long. In fact, the CARVIR story is sort of this hyper-accelerated version of the classic startup story, where a company brings a product out to market, the product finds an audience, company grows, achieves some success, and then either goes public or is acquired. Usually takes years for that to unfold. CARVIR's first product, which was an endpoint detection and response system, reached market, I believe, in November 2016, so roughly 18 months ago. And here they are being acquired for an undisclosed amount by Continuum, which is one of the big names in managed services software and services. They have an RMM product, a BDR product, and they also do outsourced NOC and security operations center work for MSPs. Security is a giant strategic bet for Continuum right now. In fact, that's really what they're betting the future of the business on. Last October at their partner event, they introduced a security solution portfolio, which included a detection and response component. They have been testing it most of the period since that October show. That solution set sort of quietly went into general availability about 2 months ago, but there was a long testing period there, and apparently some of the testers said, we like what we're seeing. What's missing is a managed SIM component. And so Continuum went out looking around for a vendor that they could acquire to very quickly fill that gap in the solution. And what they told me earlier today, actually, was that the name CARVIR kept coming up over and over and over again when they were talking to MSPs about who the leaders are in this space. And it turns out as well, this was sort of interesting, Jay Ryerson, who is the CEO and founder of CARVIR, is a former Continuum customer. He was an MSP before he became a vendor, and he was a Continuum user. He was known to the people at Continuum, which sort of contributed to their comfort level in acquiring his business. And I haven't actually had a chance to speak with Jay yet, but I have a hunch there was a certain amount of trust that he felt in terms of joining forces with Continuum based on his experience with that company in the past. But big news for a company that in a very short amount of time established itself as a very popular security vendor among MSPs, now becoming part of a much bigger company.
Right. And, a very strategic acquisition, right? When we talk about mergers and acquisitions, Rich, it's either a financial, acquisition, or it's a strategic acquisition. We're either going to, grow our top line by acquiring a company that has very strong financials or performance, or we're going to acquire an organization that fills a niche, a gap that we need to give us a competitive advantage in the market. And what a story for both organizations. I mean, even Continuum, if we recall, years and years ago, that was acquired from Zenith Infotech. So this has been, that story has been evolving for many years. And back in the day, we were one of Zenith Infotech's first clients, and we were also a strategic partner, and we helped them actually grow their partner base by doing a bunch of events and road shows for them, and really utilizing that product, very, very effectively before we sold our MSP practice. So this is kind of it's a unique tale on both sides. And of course, for the owner of CARVIR, Mr. Ryerson, I mean, yeah, he built a successful MSP practice, and I think that was acquired as well, that he, started CARVIR. So, very, very astute, reading the tea leaves, as it were, because holy cow, what is more hot than security right now, and what is, you know, more on the minds of business owners than security, right? So, you know, it's a great you know, great piece of news.
And he, you know, Jay found a very particular and very smart way to get in on that security opportunity. As a former MSP himself, he understood that there were all sorts of really powerful, interesting security solutions out there that MSPs can't use just because the solution isn't set up that way. And that's essentially what CARVIR was. He went out first to Sentinel-1 and took the Sentinel-1 solution and created an MSP-friendly version of that. And this is why the product took off so quickly, is that it gave MSPs access to a tool that just wasn't accessible to them previously. So you're right, very, very astute. And it's worth pointing out he stays with Continuum. Actually, his entire team stays with Continuum, the developers and the executives and so on. And he in particular will be the security CTO at Continuum. So good news for him, and good news for Continuum, I think. And you know, you're right, actually, that that really has been maybe not the most visible or celebrated success story, Continuum, but it has been a success story. Just a year ago, exactly a year ago, almost to the week at this time, they were sold by one private equity firm to a much larger one, Thoma Bravo. And it was really a sign of you know, the growth that their CEO, Michael George, has been able to generate for them since taking over.
Yeah, really, hats off to him, because he really turned that business unit that they acquired from Zenith Infotech around. And so, you know, it's great to see these successes. All too often, you know, we see, you know, a lot of challenges and struggles and failures in this industry. So, you know, it's great to applaud success when we see it.
Well, you know, Eric, we know all about the Continuum CARVIR story, but I imagine there are a lot of people out there who maybe are just learning about it right now because they have had so much other stuff going on that has occupied their attention. And this has something to do with your tip of the week.
Yes, it does. Great segue. Thanks, Rich. So today's tip of the week is to really understand the importance of strategic time management. And I'm not speaking just to the CEOs and business owners, you know, that are watching. I'm talking about everyone in, you know, everyone that has any role in an organization, and even in your personal life, because, you know, time management, and, you know, it's kind of a fallacy, because who can, boy, if we could manage time, huh? That would be a superhero skill that would be awesome. But, you know, we're talking about managing our activities within an allotted period of time, and to focus on what is the most important. I just did a training session for a client today on this specific topic, and I just wanted to highlight a few things. You know, specifically, there are 4 types of tasks that we get involved with on a daily basis, and I'm going to call them quadrant 1 through quadrant 4 tasks. A quadrant 1 task is something that is important and urgent. And this is something that sometimes it's important because we get tasked because it needs to be done right away, and these are these things that need to be done yesterday, and it creates a lot of stress and anxiety and urgency because we sometimes have no time to plan for those tasks. Maybe sometimes we're procrastinating on tasks and don't get them done, or we're perfectionists and want it to be perfect before it goes out. Both of those things are dangerous. The quadrant 2 tasks are the things that are important but not urgent. Now, these are the tasks that we have the opportunity to plan for, to really get around, and to develop a strategy so that we're not chasing behind, you know, the whirlwind. So we're planning and we're executing, and we have a way to deliver those tasks in a way that is achievable, successful, and doesn't create a lot of stress for us. Quadrant 3 tasks are important. They're not important, but urgent. And quadrant 4 tasks are not important and not urgent. So those 2 quadrants are areas where, when we're fatigued, we're tired, we just want to take a break. There's a difference between activity, productivity, and efficiency. So activity, boy, I'm just going to knock off a couple things off my to-do list just so I don't have such a long to-do list. But the danger there is we're working on things that are either not important and not urgent, or not important but urgent because, you know, we think they are. So what I want to focus on is focusing on having us spend the most of our time in quadrant 2, those tasks that are important but not urgent. Because if we do that correctly, then we have a less potential to end up in quadrant 1, where everything is important and urgent, and we're just firefighting all the time. So I've got a quick four Ds tip. So when we're touching a task, a piece of physical mail, an email, an activity that we're evaluating, think of 4 Ds. Either we're going to do something about it because only we can do it and we're the best person to take care of it. Number 2, we're going to delegate it because, hey, I should only be working on the things that only I can do. And if I have someone I can delegate to, then I'm going to delegate that task, but I'm going to manage that task to make sure that they can get it done successfully, etc. So do it, delegate it, or I'm going to delay it. You know what? I need to do it, but I don't need to do it right now. I'm going to delay it, and then I'm going to put a time clock on it, and I'll come back to it and reevaluate it later. Or I'm going to delete it. So if there's been something in my inbox, like always occurs, it's been there for 3 months, and I have a flag on it, and you know what? It's not going to impact anything. It's not going to affect the big picture of things. I'm just going to delete it. I had an epiphany 3 weeks ago when my email inbox just disappeared for some reason. And I had tons of things that were flagged in there, Rich. I know you're like, wow, really?
Yeah.
And it took me a week to actually get it back. And I finally had an old laptop that I booted up that I hadn't been online for a while, and I was able to export it and put them all into an email. And you know what? It's been 3 weeks, and I haven't had to go in there to find anything in 3 weeks. So what does that tell you? I've been hanging on to stuff that I should have deleted because it was probably a quadrant 3 or quadrant 4 task. So let's stay in quadrant 2. Over time, we'll eliminate the urgency and the firefighting. But, you know, we're also always going to have quadrant 1 tasks that come up that are urgent and emergencies. But let's be strategic about how we operate and build out our task list and where we spend our time.
Great advice, and I say that as somebody who spends way too much of his time in the realm of stuff that is urgent but not important, and is aware of it and fighting that all the time. But it is a difficult habit to break.
Yeah, and
but
then
I remember the D's.
Yeah, and the more we spend in quadrant 2 time, the more strategic we can be, and that's where, you know, we have the ability to focus and grow the business, or really focus and improve processes, or the things that really move the needle for us, right?
Absolutely. Well, we only have time for one more quick story here, and good news, or maybe bad news, if you're a fan of the World Cup and you've been looking forward to seeing how that competition comes out, who walks away with the big prize. We now know who's going to win the World Cup this year, thanks to Achilles, the psychic cat, who is from Russia. We now know that Team Russia is actually going to win the World Cup. Lock it away, guaranteed, sign, seal, deliver. Russia wins the World Cup. Thank you, Achilles, the psychic cat. Unless it's Argentina, because Shaheen the Clairvoyant Camel, and you can't make these things up, people, in Dubai, Shaheen the Clairvoyant Camel says, actually, it's going to be Argentina that wins the World Cup. But wait, it could be somebody else, because Marcus, the Mystic Pig, who, according to his owner, has a 100% success record picking sports winners. He hasn't actually told us which team is going to win. He's just told us that Belgium, Argentina, there you go again, Nigeria and Uruguay are going to advance. And I guess we have to come back to Marcus for the final winner later on. Marcus, by the way, we are told, predicted that Donald Trump would be elected president. So he kind of knows what he's talking about there. But it turns out that in addition to just making your own decision about, you know, who's going to win the World Cup this time around, you also have to decide which clairvoyant animal you're going to entrust this decision to.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rich, I think that for me, Marcus gets it just on style points. I mean, he's got that awesome little wizard costume that they dress him up in when he's making his picks. So, I mean, this, you can't make it up, like I said, Rich. So Google this stuff. It's Marcus, the Mystic Pig.
Well, that is our show for this week. Thank you very much for joining us. If you would like to keep up with the latest episodes of the 5-Minute Roundup and join us in the future, please sign up, subscribe to the ChannelPro channel on YouTube. For more great content from ChannelPro about managed services and companies like Continuum and CARVIR and all sorts of other stuff, you want to go to channelpronetwork.com on a regular basis. We've got new stuff for you up there every day. To learn more about SPC International, you want to go to consulting.spc-intl.com. That's consulting.spc-intl.com. Thanks again for joining us. We will be back next week. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.